We've all been there, right? That moment when the tears start to well up and someone, or maybe even that voice in your own head, tells you to be strong and hold it in. But what if that advice is completely, totally wrong? Today, we're going to dive into the hidden strength behind our tears and challenge a belief that pretty much all of us have been taught our whole lives.
So let's just get right to it. Here's the big question. Are people who cry easily weak? I mean, it's a question that feels loaded with judgment, doesn't it? Our culture has pretty much conditioned us to have an immediate answer, and that answer is usually yes. But is that really the whole story?
Yeah, society tells us they are. Think about it. From movies to maybe even our own families, the message we get is crystal clear. Tears are a sign of weakness. But is that a biological fact, or is it just a story we've been telling ourselves for a very long time? Let's see what the science actually has to say about this.
Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we first have to unpack what we're calling the weakness myth. For centuries, if you're someone who cries easily, you might get labeled as unstable, manipulative, or just not tough enough. Seriously? How many times have you heard someone say, "Don't cry when things get tough"? That's not just a phrase. It's the echo of this deep, deep cultural belief that tears mean you're losing control. But here's the kicker. This is a cultural story, not a biological one.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This question right here, it just flips the entire script. We're so used to seeing crying as a moment of breakdown, of losing our grip on everything. But what if it's the exact opposite? What if it's a sign that your body is actually taking control, using this powerful built-in tool for its own good?
And that brings us perfectly to the real purpose of tears. See, they're so much more than just salty water. They're an incredibly sophisticated biological tool. Let's take a look at how this emotional release valve, as it's called, actually works.
Okay, so here's a crucial point. Not all tears are created equal. The tears you cry when you're sad or frustrated or totally overwhelmed, what scientists call emotional tears, they have a totally unique chemical makeup. Unlike the tears that just clean out some dust from your eye, these emotional tears literally contain stress hormones, like cortisol. So think about it like this. Your body is physically washing away stress. It's like a natural detox for your emotions. How cool is that?
And this lays out the process so brilliantly. First, you hit an emotional overload. Your system is just flooded. Then comes the physical release. Crying starts to purge those stress hormones we just talked about. And, this is key, it activates your parasympathetic nervous system. That's basically your body's rest and digest or chill out button, and crying helps to push it. And all of that leads to a psychological reset, helping you find your balance again. It's a natural, healthy cycle.
So, if crying is a healthy, effective stress response, then what does that say about people who do it more often? Well, it turns out, far from being weak, the research suggests they might actually have a unique set of strengths. You could honestly even call them emotional superpowers.
Let's break down these superpowers. First up, people who cry more easily often have enhanced empathy. They're just more wired into how other people are feeling. They're also way better at stress relief because they're using their body's built-in tool instead of just bottling everything up. And crying fosters a deeper social connection. It signals vulnerability, which is a massive shortcut to building trust and intimacy with people. And finally, it shows greater emotional awareness. It means you're someone who actually acknowledges and processes your feelings instead of running from them. Come on, these aren't weaknesses. They're signs of incredible emotional intelligence.
So it is definitely time for a new perspective. Let's totally reframe this whole conversation and move away from that old, outdated myth and start embracing the psychological reality. And this chart just lays it all out side by side perfectly. The myth says someone who cries is weak and unstable, but the reality is they're emotionally aware. The myth dismisses it as seeking attention, when the reality is it's often about seeking genuine connection. And where the myth sees a loss of control, the reality is a powerful, intentional act of releasing stress. The difference is just night and day. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Crying isn't a sign that a person's broken. Not at all. It's an active process. It is a powerful sign that a person's body and mind are working together, doing exactly what they're supposed to do to find balance and to heal. It's not a bug in our system, it's a feature.
And that leaves us with a final thought to really chew on. What would change in our friendships, in our workplaces, and how we see ourselves? What would change if we all started seeing tears not as a moment of breaking down, but as a moment of breaking through? A breakthrough to honesty, to stress relief, and to a much deeper human connection. Definitely something to think about.